Hello, everybody. This is the CT Sports Town Show. My name is Christopher Saunders, and it's a pleasure because I haven't had too many soccer coaches on, and it's awesome to be able to. And obviously, with the broadcasts I've got with football and such, time is always racing. But somebody told me that I should have this guy on. They call him the Wall, or used to back in the day, But Coach Christensen's with me, coach of East Lyme. Currently, they do play tomorrow. They were coming off an ECC championship, and they also won their first game against Windsor, and they do play tomorrow. Coach, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into the Simsbury game, and we'll get into that a little bit later, I kind of want to turn the page back a little bit to just the season, because you and I were just talking about how it's a long season, any high school season, because people kind of forget these are not pros, these are not college athletes, these are high school kids. And the laws of, I say laws of gravity, sometimes they're broadcast with wins, losses, whatever. The laws of attrition and the duration of the season. You were saying this is game number 20 or something like that. And the bodies are starting to drop because of just nagging injuries and now the sick bug because it's getting consistently cold. If you could talk about that a little bit, if you can, as far as just how the season's been so far.
Yeah, we've had an outstanding season. We're sitting at 17-1-1 right now. We won our league division title, we won our league championship, tournament champion, and now we're into the second round of the state tournament. So by any measure, we've had an outstanding season. But we played seven in the last month. We played 7 games in 15 days. Last week, 2 games in 3 days. This week, right now, 2 games in 3 days, and they just pile up on you. And so there's definitely injuries because high school soccer, the higher level you go, the more physical it gets, and it becomes, the team that can sometimes stay healthy is the team that is sometimes more successful. Today we had practice, but there was 3 guys that didn't practice because of injuries, one because of sickness. So, what my starting lineup tomorrow is going to be probably a game day decision. We'll see how it goes. But I'm confident in their abilities, and we'll hopefully put a good product on the field tomorrow.
Coach, and I forgot to mention, you've been part of the program for 36 plus years, and to be able to see so much soccer, right? And I think that's the beauty. Again, I feel like, again, football, basketball kind of gets the headliners, the attention of the media, but in really focusing as I have, especially being able to broadcast the championship games for soccer the last couple of years, to see the tradition of so many great soccer coaches that have kind of come through. I mean, the wins, the championships, and so on and so forth. And from what you've been a part of, if you can share just some of the tricks of the trade that you've been able to kind of learn through this coaching experience that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, high school soccer coaching, it's not just skills, because you come into a season, you literally got 10 days to practice before your first game. And then next thing you know, you're playing 2 to 3 games a week. And next thing you know, it's November. So, there is teaching time, but there's not a ton of teaching time. A lot of it's working on team camaraderie. A lot of it's working on relationships, a lot of working on, effort, hustle, all those innate skills you try to bring out in those kids. Certainly it helps having kids like Dom or Gabe that I got this year, that are well-skilled players, in addition to the others I got as well. But, I think 36 years that I've done, 38, including the JV teams that I coached prior, the consistency and the kids knowing who I am, I think is also helpful. They know what my preseason is going to look like. They know what I expect of the kids. We got a handbook we hand out and we go through, and those things haven't changed. I haven't, I've certainly changed the way I've coached. Probably 30 years ago, coached, I was far more intense than I am today, because, that's all had to change somewhat. But the consistency, I think, is an important thing, and, you look at the records, I won my 400th game last week in the ECC tournament championship game. And as I told the people who interviewed me, it's about the kids. I didn't get here without the kids. I didn't get here without the assistant coaches I've had. I didn't get here without the support of the administration, without the support of fellow teachers and coaches, without a community that supported us, at the youth level. All those things make East Lyme soccer special to me, and they make East Lyme soccer successful as it has been.
As somebody, and congratulations for the 400th win. Now 401, if you want to count the Windsor win. So that's awesome to be able to hear. Hopefully, Coach, I know, hopefully let's get to 500. You know what? Why not?
Yeah,
500 would be awesome.
yeah,
The amount of soccer that you have seen, and I always love to ask kind of the evolution of the game, right? I go back to like football, how that's evolved, basketball with the 3-point line, football with the air raid offense. Soccer's a little different because you kind of really can't, I feel like, pick one or two things because the game is played much differently than those sports.
yeah.
So I'd love to be able to pick your brain on this. How has soccer changed? And it may be a broad question, so I apologize.
No,
How has soccer changed from, let's say, from the 80s, 90s, 70s to now 2023? What has
yeah.
changed?
Well, the biggest difference is there are far more skilled players. I mean, the games become more of a possession style, where back in the 80s when I first started, it was more a kick and run, so to speak. You put the fast kids up top and you kick it long and hopefully outrun them and get the goal in. And the defense was, break it up however you can. If you can't get the ball, get the man almost. Where now it's much more skilled. You're building it out of the back. You're possessing the ball with, 2-3 touches. You're making 5 or 6 passes in a row and you're looking to finish, you know, not a kick and run style. That's the biggest difference. Um, Certainly you put the bigger kids in the back in the day, where sometimes you may put in the speed in the back today to get the kids running outside the wing. So there's different formations too. I mean, when I first started, everybody was 4-3-3, moved to a 4-4-2. It's moved to 4-5-1. There's lots of transformation in those systems of play. Where back in the day, it was pretty, you know, uh, everybody did the same thing, so to speak. So there
Now,
has been evolution, certainly in the game of soccer at the high school level.
I do know that, especially in the States, because again, it took some time for soccer to be able to kind of grow in the US. And I know in other countries that they had not AAU, but they had styles to be able to nurture and evolve the younger kids to be able to grow into obviously hopefully playing one day at the higher levels.
Yeah.
I know that soccer, kind of like lacrosse, has started to really grow and really kind of be a strong sport, especially for kids who don't want to play football, right? Because of the
Yeah.
contact, because of the injury. Do you feel like and again, I go back to AAU. I know it's not AAU, it's more like the club teams. I think that's
Yeah.
what
The
it's called.
the premier club
Yeah, the
team.
Premier Club. Thank you. So would you say that those also too have helped with the development, like you mentioned, of the
Oh,
athletes and such?
yeah. Definitely, because the kids are now playing for the most part year round. The ones that are committed to the game.
Mhm.
Um, I always try to tell my kids, take a season off, guys. Go play basketball. Go do a track. Do something different so your muscles aren't being beaten on the same way that they're getting beaten on in soccer, or your body's not getting beaten on that way. But
Mhm.
certainly I appreciate the efforts that the premier clubs and even the town clubs, they provide those opportunities for kids to get those extra touches in on the ball. And like I said, you walk into a season with 10 days of practice. If you don't come with those skills now, you're way behind the 8 ball. You're not going to be able to compete. When I first started coaching, we were teaching kids how to do head ball because our youth program had just started. We were teaching them how to do a head ball, trap a ball, pass a ball, dribble a ball, all
Mhm.
those innate things or that those things that are innate now to the kids that are coming in. And
Mhm.
so everybody was always behind because you're going back to the basic skills, and then you were developing the tactics later on. But where we're at now, those skills are already there.
Mhm.
They're expected to be there. And if you're going to be successful at the varsity level, you have to start right away with the tactics and build and play and those type of things.
When you've structured your team, and what I mean by that is when you go about putting up, when you go into a season, you're like, okay, if I've got, in baseball, they talk about up the middle, right? Catcher, short, second, center. If I've got that, then you're golden as far as building, right?
Yep.
Soccer's a little bit different. I've kind of equated to goalkeeper, obviously a solid midfielder, and
Yep.
then, can't forget the defense, especially me being a left back in the day. If you've got a good center back, maybe one of the corners, and then you've got a fast wing, right? Or a
Yeah.
four that can really kind of go do their thing. Is that kind of how you structured your teams?
Well, I've always tried to build up the middle as well. I was a catcher in baseball back in the day as well, and I was a goalkeeper. So that's why I looked at things. So I wanted strong defense in front of me in the middle. I wanted a strong midfield, and I wanted a strong forward. And then you kind of fill in the pieces on the outside. Throw some speed on the outside, throw some bigger guys maybe on the outside that got the big foot that can get the ball out, those
Mhm.
type of things. But I think that the best players are playing up the middle for the most part.
Now, again, I think I already know the answer to this. Are you more of the defensive minded coach for soccer, and what I mean by that is, and I'm not trying to say play keep away where you're just holding on to the ball
Yeah.
until time goes, but what I'm saying is set pieces, precision passes, not just boot like you mentioned back in the 80s, boot the
Yep.
ball and let the fastest kid just go up and hopefully he
Right.
scores, right?
Right. No, no, no. Absolutely. You want that possession style. That controls the game for you.
Mhm.
Every now and then, we tell them go short, short, long. Take that opportunity to take that long pass and open things up,
Mhm.
because you do that in a diagonal. Sometimes you got opportunities that present themselves. So, it's not a kick and run style. It's definitely a build up style. But every
Mhm.
now and then you take that shot. Or through ball going through there. So, certainly I'm probably more defensive minded. Because I coming from the goalie background, and that's my history. So I rather have a strong defense than a strong offense. But obviously, games are won and lost by goals scored, not by goals prevented. So but I still prefer the strong defense and build it from there.
During your years at East Lyme, not to say that you've had to correct, because I'm sure these kids obviously take the game serious and the amount of success that you've had to get to 401 wins. I won't forget the one,
Yeah.
401. Um, what is one or two things that you kind of, I don't want to say have to correct, because like you said, you have 10 days and you jump right to the games. But, I know for me, it was whenever I got the soccer ball, my head was always down because I always wanted to make sure that I had control because, like I said, wasn't the most tactical soccer player. I used my, aggressiveness. But a lot of these kids now are very good with their footwork, very good on their first and second touches. But I know
Yep.
some have a tendency to put their head down. But
Yeah.
you always, again, I can listen to my soccer coach now telling me, make sure your head is up so you can see, because you never
Right.
know when someone's going to come up and boom, you could get
Right.
blown up, lose the ball. Is that something that is preached a lot, or do the kids already not do?
Well, the more experience you have, the less that occurs. But there's certainly kids at all levels, including the varsity level, that have their heads down. That usually leads to over dribbling.
Mm-hmm.
When you over dribble, you're losing opportunities because you're not seeing the field. So certainly at the higher level, you got to eliminate that as much as possible. And we try to emphasize 2-3 touches and release. Don't be dribbling the ball up the field. I'd rather have it passed up the field. You're going to take less time to get it up the field, and hopefully better opportunities to create a goal. But yeah, I would agree. Putting the head down is definitely an area that we focus on at times during the season. More at the younger level, less at the higher level. But we still have kids at the higher level that have a tendency to do that. And they're usually the younger kids that have good skill, that just because they don't recognize that the speed of the game at the varsity level is so much more than at the JV and freshman level. So they can get away with putting their head down at that level, at the lower level, and dribble. Where at the varsity level, you turn the guys on top of you. It's just so much quicker. So, you got to eliminate that as best as possible.
Looking at the season, you spoke about the amount of wins that you had this season. At what point did you feel like that this team was starting to kind of take that next step, right? Where things were starting to really come together? Do you
Yeah.
recall?
Well, there was, last year I knew we had a strong team coming to us. I knew it was going to be a number of wins we'd get. The issue is I have 16 seniors on the team this year. Yeah, it's a lot. It's
Whoa.
a lot. But we have a policy, or my policy, I should say, at East Lyme is I'll keep the kids that were in the program from the start. And we had 62 kids come out overall for our entire program. We have freshmen, JV, and varsity, and we were able to keep them all. It was about 15, 16 on freshmen, 20 something on JV, and I have 24, I think it is, on varsity, something like that. Some kids ended up quitting, or got hurt during this course of the season, so they dropped off. But
Mhm.
we definitely have. Go back to the question again. I don't want to get off track.
No, 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 you're good. I was just asking as far as when did the team start to kind of take that next step? When
Oh,
did
yeah,
you
yeah,
realize that they
yeah.
were
So the biggest thing that I had to work on this year with that large group of seniors is that they're all well-skilled players. They're all competitive and they're all intense. Sometimes that intensity can come across as being negative among one another, because come on, pass me the ball, I'm open, you should have done this. And if you don't have that connection team-wise, that teamwork that you need, you're not going to be successful. So the first game that we really saw that, I mean, we were 10-0, Ledger was 10-0. We put together an amazing game, and we walked away with a 6-0 win against Ledger, who was undefeated at the time. So, and they're a number one ranked team in the ECC because they finished point ahead of us or something like that, because we ended up losing to Old Saybrook at the end of the year and tied East Hampton. But that was the one game that we literally put everything together and we dominated. It was a dominating performance. So when they can do that, and when they're healthy, we were healthy that day. We're a pretty good team.
Is Old Saybrook, no, refresh my memory, because I remember doing the PA a couple years ago. Is the Old Saybrook coach the one that has what, like 7 titles, 8 titles? How many does he
Oh
have?
yeah, he coached at Farmington, and then he's been
Yeah,
at Old Saybrook for
a while.
3-4 years. And he
Yeah.
took over for Sam Barnes. So, and he's won the Class S the last 3 years, I think, and they got a good shot making it 4 this year.
He definitely has set the standard. He was the coach I was thinking of, but I couldn't think of the
Yeah,
team.
Steve
Yeah.
Waters, and he has the most
Yeah.
wins in the state of Connecticut. He's got 500 and something.
So that means maybe you'll catch up. You never
Yeah,
know.
no.
But like, I want to stick to that for a second. I'm sure, you and Waters and like the other coaches who've been around for a while and obviously have the wins, the pedigree, the respect and such. Do you guys ever just like, I'm not saying you guys get together and watch a game, but do you ever just talk like, hey, like, look what we've been able to, not we, but like we are helping the future of soccer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Certainly when we have opportunities to, whether they're at banquets or meetings, I'm on the Connecticut Soccer Coaches Association board. I was on the Connecticut High School Coaches Association executive board as well. So
Mhm.
certainly when I get around those coaches, we have those type of conversations, and bounce ideas off of each other. Hey, I got this situation. What would you suggest? And vice versa.
Mhm.
But there, certainly there's a camaraderie. There's a lot of younger coaches. There's a lot of turnover in coaching these days for various reasons. So to have those coaches stay around that long,
Mhm.
they obviously have some wisdom and knowledge and experience that can be shared. So, and I try to do that with the younger coaches as much as possible as well. You know, um, sometimes they look at you like you're the old man on the block. It's time to move on. Sometimes not. So sometimes they appreciate it. Most of them appreciate it. So
Coach, I really appreciate you coming on. Before I let you go, real quick, as far as going up against Simsbury, obviously, anytime you get to this point, it's going to be tough. I don't care. I've always believed once you get to the playoffs, take away the seeding because seeding doesn't mean anything.
it doesn't mean anything. I
It's
mean,
so, especially in soccer, it's
yeah,
so deceiving because, you got to think about the competition, right? You think
yeah,
about the CCC, the FCAC. You got teams who could be just getting in, but their schedule was daunting. It was tough, right?
yes,
So,
yeah.
kind of talk to me about what you can with the opponent that you have coming up.
Yeah. I mean, Simsbury obviously plays in a very strong league. They have tough competition, certainly, yeah, and they're a strong team. I've scouted them. We've seen them on film. We've got scouting reports on them, as I'm sure they got on us as well. So I think it'd be a competitive game. They got quite a bit of height. They got some speed. They got a guy that can throw the ball long. They got Max in the middle, who's a strong player, number 10. So there'll be a lot to handle for sure. You know, but and if you look at the L bracket, I mean, the L bracket is brutal this year. I mean, the
Yeah.
top 9, 10 teams had a combined two losses or less. Brookfield's sitting there at number, I think they're 2. They're undefeated. Platt Tech had 1 loss. We had 1 loss. You go all the way down to Middletown, who had like 7 ties, and I think they had 1 or 2 losses. So those, and they were like 9th or 10th or something like that. Maybe even 11th. They might even drop to.
Mhm.
So there's a long list, and we got Murderers Row, as I told the kids. We got
Mhm.
Simsbury tomorrow. If we win that, it's probably Bethel. If we win that, it's probably Brookfield. And then who knows who's in the final? But
Mhm.
that's definitely the lower bracket in the L is a tough chore. But in any tournament, it's a matter of being healthy, number one, getting some breaks, getting some calls, and getting a good draw. You look in the M bracket, there's some of the tech schools that are high ranked teams that are going to probably fall off, just because their competition hasn't been the same.
Mhm.
So in soccer, that definitely skews the tournament a little bit.
Definitely. It's one of those things where if you get your thrills off trying to figure out the perfect match like they do with March Madness,
Yeah,
soccer maybe is not the best for high school because it
no,
never
no,
turns out.
no. I mean, you look at Windsor yesterday. I mean, we only beat them 2-1. We should have had some more goals. But they gave us a game, and they were the 30th team in. We're the third. So, It's the nature of the beast with the leagues you're playing with the scheduling you're forced to undergo.
Mhm.
Um, and maybe it's time for maybe an alliance system like they do in football. Get that competitive thing going. Because in some leagues it's hard to get that, and you're forced to play those games. So,
Mhm.
a 6, 7, 8-0 win against somebody isn't doing anybody any good. You rather have competition. So.
You know what, Coach? You may have just started something there that could be discussed down the road. You never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, who knows? I think they've been kicking around for years, I mean, they've tried the power rankings, they've tried the point system, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie. They've
Mhm.
tried the straight up percentages, and you're still going to get those matchups, and I don't know what the answer is. So
Well, who knows? Maybe before you retire, maybe they may end up doing that, Coach. But you know what? You've got a game tomorrow. I appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun being able to talk with you. Best of luck tomorrow, and hopefully I see you down in Hartford because that would be awesome.
yeah, all right. Well, thanks very much. We hope we can get there.
That'd be awesome. Coach, that'll wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connected Talent. I'm Enjoy Find Them All. Enjoy the day, everybody, and be well.